Hi everyone, and welcome back to Investments with Sean. This week I want to continue with our discussion we were having with Kim Deane from Solutions on the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And Kim, this week I'd just like you to help us understand how this act will impact the small and medium-sized enterprises and maybe anything that they can do to prepare for the act coming into play.
Certainly. Good evening, Sean. Good evening, viewers. Thanks for having me again today. Last week we would have discussed a few key takeaways from the Fair Credit Reporting Act 2021. What we'll do today, or what I will do rather, is some best practices that small and medium-sized businesses can be mindful of as we seek to make this change in the reporting culture. So we know that the credit report looks at monies that you would have borrowed, the amount owed, your repayment history, pretty much if you're meeting your payments based on your agreed credit terms. They look at your credit mix. So for example, it looks at credit card debt, your other short-term debt, mortgages, etc. It looks at the number of, say for example, you can look at the number of new accounts you have opened, how frequently you are seeking to open these new accounts. A lot of these are kind of indicators and drivers of the credit reporting. It's also important to know that the credit report would take into consideration if any collection procedures have been initiated against you, if you have any bad debt, charge-off accounts, liens, foreclosures, that kind of thing. So with respect to best practices, one of the things that it's a common practice by many of the clients that we talk to. Many of them don't understand the importance of building up a relationship with their bank or with their credit union, so they prefer to do business cash only. For me, what I recommend to them all is understand the importance of building up a relationship with your local bank. The factor or the driver usually for doing business only in cash is that they're trying to avoid interest payments. So for example, you have a business credit card, you don't like paying interest, pay off the card monthly. But what you're doing in the meantime is building up a credit rating with your institution. Small lines of credit, that's another way you can get overdraft facilities, small lines of credit, revolving lines. You can use them specifically for the purchase of inventory. You can use them for any other particular, to maybe meet any requirements for a contract. Repay them at the end of the contract period. That allows you to pay minimum interest, and it allows you also to build up a credit rating with your institution. And it's important that you do so, because as your business grows and expands and your needs change, it's important that you have a relationship with your bank. Just doing business in cash and doing business outside of the system does not allow you to build up a relationship with your bankers. You must also remember, be cognizant of the fact that I would have indicated last week that the central bank will or can delegate utility companies to be part of the reporting portfolio. That being the case, businesses need to be cognizant of the importance of paying their utility bills, because that's also part and parcel of will be part and parcel of your credit report. So you might not have facilities with the bank, but don't overlook, you might have electricity, other utilities, water, telephone. It's important that you pay these and keep current with these, because this is also factored into your credit report.
Could you tell me, just sorry to cut you there, but could you let me know why is it important to build this relationship? Why is it important? For some it may seem obvious, but why is it important to pay your utilities on time? How does this impact the small business as it relates to the act? Like how does that impact your credit?
Okay, so we would have, I don't know if you are familiar, but I'm sure you would be. Previously, credit reports generated in Barbados only factored in facilities for traditional organizations, traditional banks. And the thing about financial institutions, the thing about it is, there are actually some entities who would utilize the credit bureau for information purposes, but would not populate the bureau with data. And with that also, I must make it, I must note that what that did actually was, in some instances, allowed people to walk away from bad debt. If, for example, your business is small, and at at the current stage, you don't have need for formal facilities. However, you have utilities, you have a factory that you're paying utilities, and maybe other small credit obligations. What that would allow you to do is to start to build a credit history. And that can be, despite the fact that it might not weigh in significance versus a loan, it will still give some indication of the fact that company X is meeting their obligations as required. And that will hold the organization or the small business in a positive light. What I should also say too in that regard is that the same small businesses can use the credit bureau, use the credit reporting bureau, also to do searches on persons that they seek to do business with. So say, for example, if you're a small business and you extend credit facilities to your clients, yes, there's a substantial benefit to the credit bureau and having access to the data, because it allows you to make an informed decision on extending credit to that particular client. So it's also for your benefit in the way you do business. Some other best practices, for example, you can look at, and it's very, very important, is that you have to be very cognizant of the credit terms that you negotiate, because the repayment of your facilities is key, or one of the key drivers of your credit score. So you have to be very, very clear that whatever repayment terms you have negotiated will match your ability to repay. So you have to be very clear on your cash flow, your available cash flow. And you have to, for example, if you know that you want to purchase a fixed asset, you would not want to approach a financial institution for an overdraft facility. Debit for the fixed asset will be a one-time debit. Obviously, interest is accrued monthly on your overdraft facility. It would not be ideal to use an overdraft facility to purchase a fixed asset. So you have to be very clear about the facilities that you're negotiating with your bankers, and you have to ensure that whatever you negotiate, the company is clear, it is able to meet that obligation. So you really have to be in tune with your cash flow.
I imagine your relationship that you mentioned before with your bankers and paying on time and so on would also impact those facilities, and in terms of the interest rate that you're offered as a company.
Yes.
Then so I mean, if you maintain a good relationship, you're paying on time, then with that, I mean, you can confirm for me that will then in turn lead to lower interest rates
For sure.
for the bank, for the for the business and so on.
For sure, and also in terms of your projections or your long-term projections, it's important, as I said, that you could actually use the credit report as a tool to do business. Because say, for example, if you are a business extending credit, to several customers, using the credit report will allow you to make an informed decision, as I said previously, on your creditors, and you could then pretty much more positively or confidently predict your cash flow.
Yeah.
If you don't have that information, you pretty much have to take a chance on what information is provided to you. So there are advantages on both fronts.
Yeah.
Definitely, and especially for small business, where cash flow really is quite important.
More effective conversation with your bank now that you can say, well, this system that you're using is how I'm determining my cash flows, and I think the bank will be more comfortable with that as well when providing facilities. So yeah, there's benefit there.
And as I said last week, and I can't stress it enough, in terms of best practices, this is really the time for small businesses to go into their bankers. If you are having challenges, if you would have negotiated a facility that you believe is burdensome, or your cash flow has not pretty much panned out the way that you would have anticipated, you really need to go in and have the conversation now, because you really do not want your report to reflect the fact that you are not meeting your obligations as agreed.
So don't hide from the bank calls. Don't say, oh no, that's them calling again. Say, I'm going to try to find you money next week, or so. Just be upfront. Have that conversation. Restructure that if needed. This is the time to do that.
And in terms of best practices as well, something that I always advise my clients to do, if for example, your monthly obligation to an institution is $10,000 and you don't have the $10,000, make a part payment.
Yeah.
Because what a part payment does, even though you've obviously not met the full amount, is gives that along with the conversation with your banker would give a clear indication that this maybe is a temporary situation you're in, things have not gone as planned, but there is a willingness by the client.
There's intent. Yeah.
There's intent to repay your debt. And that's something that's key because, as I would have said last week, the credit report cannot capture the backstory, but your relationship with your banker, with your financial institution will allow the adequate capture of that backstory, and it will allow them to make the necessary, adjustments as required.
Yeah.
Cannot stress it enough. You need to stay in contact with your bankers. You need, in terms, if you're having difficulties, articulate it, look towards solution for all involved, and to ensure that you don't, damage your credit rating.
Blue solution.
Well, that's one of the services that we offer. We do offer credit repair and debt restructure, and we're also passionate about negotiating on behalf of our clients. To ensure that they are negotiating terms that are favorable. A lot of people don't read, you'll be surprised, but a lot of people don't read the fine print. There are a lot of businesses that they sign agreements with the bank. They don't factor in, things like there's a penalty for prepayment or early repayment. They have no understanding of what's the rate, the interest rate. Simple things that
it's really good advice. It's also very good advice for individuals in terms of having those conversations with their bankers. Really understanding what the interest rates are, how that impacts them. Having worked in the banking system myself, I do understand, a lot of times people aren't as interest rate sensitive as maybe they should be, but also having a relationship and showing intent that you noted. So yes, even for my individual investors as well, I'd say this is good advice. Make sure you have your house in order, because the channel is here for education on how to invest, and I want you to be able to invest. I want you to be able to have your debt in order, your rates as low as they can be, that you can then have that financing wiggle room to then invest your funds more and make it more for you and your family. So it's really good information.
And I'm sure that you're advising your clients, not to be pursuing investment passionately when they have, a tremendous amount of high interest that really needs to be addressed. I think part and parcel of the package really should be to have a clear picture of the customer's financial portfolio. What are your financial obligations? Maybe a strategy might not be to invest at this time, but pretty much to pay some additional focus to paying down your current debts, which would allow you obviously then some wiggle room in the future, or even could reduce the length of repayment period for the particular debt. But investment really should be pursued with the view of having a full understanding of the customer's financial portfolio. Hope that our clients and your clients as well really use this opportunity. COVID-19, despite the amount of loss and devastation, it has really provided an opportunity for persons, private individuals and businesses, to pretty much get their house in order. The banks have been very, very accommodating. Customers, they're asking their customers to come in, chat with them. They've had moratorium on principal payments. These are really the times for persons to get their house in order to take advantage of this.
Great, great information again, Kim, and I want to thank you again for coming on to the show, and we'll probably have you back again soon. And I look forward to all that you're doing, and you can check out Kim Deane at Blue Solutions 246.
Yeah, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, pretty easy to find us.
Great. Thank you.